Hi, Sarah. Michael calling.
Michael?
Hi, Sarah. Can you hear me?
Hey. We can hear you.
Okay, good. It worked. We're getting better at
Yep.
this.
We're just going to turn up the volume a little bit and then we'll be good to go.
Okay, I'll stand by. I'm going to put my phone
Okay.
on mute.
Okay. It's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
We got it. We got it. Not working. Oh, it is working. Yes.
Hello, we're going to go ahead and start today's meeting. I'd like to call to order today's regular assembly meeting on Tuesday, August 27th, 2024. Please rise for a flag salute. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Assembly of the City and Borough of Sitka would like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional first people of Sitka. With gratitude, we proceed on Tlingit Ani. Sarah, roll call.
Mr. Mosher,
Here.
Mr. Pike,
Here.
Mr. Yestad,
Here.
Mr. Christensen,
Here.
Ms. Carlson,
Here.
and Mr. Celine.
Here.
Mayor Eisenbais is absent this evening.
Okay. So that moves us to correspondence and agenda changes. I see none. Go to ceremonial matters. We do have one. It is service award for Brian Hansen. So I'm going to get the turn this microphone on and take it in here. Brian, if you want, you and your family want to come up. Oh, you want to do it? Okay, you can do it. That's right. Sorry. Hi. So I'm just going to read this, and then maybe if you'd like to say some words, that would be great. Okay. On behalf of the City and Borough of Sitka, service award on behalf of City and Borough of Sitka is hereby awarded to Brian Hansen in recognition of over 7 years of dedicated service as a municipal attorney for the City and Borough of Sitka. Your expertise and commitment have been invaluable to the success of our organization. Your work has strengthened and enriched our community. We extend our sincere appreciation for your remarkable contributions. And I'd just like to say one thing before I hand it off to you. Brian has been obviously on on staff since I've been on here 6 years ago. It has been just a wonderful relationship. I really look up to you. Your dedication, your love of community and others, and your humility has really taught me. It's set a very good example for me. And I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. So who wrote this? Well, yeah, their integrity was stretched when whoever wrote this thing on me. Try to be quick. It was an honor and a privilege to serve the citizens of Sitka. And that's what you do when you're in a public municipal job. I practiced for 30 years in private practice in Sitka before I took the job with the city and borough of Sitka. And it was a complete different world being in private practice when you're representing single or businesses, and as opposed to coming into municipal service where you're representing the citizens of the city and borough of Sitka and doing the biddings of these assemblies. And I have to say that I think the assemblies, I've worked with a lot of great assembly people. This one in particular has been a really good assembly to work with the last couple of years, the people who have been on that. I'd like to thank the staff and the department heads. The department heads, when I came on board and throughout my tenure as a municipal attorney, were truly an inspiration to me. I was the older one of all the staff in the city and borough, and all the other, except for maybe Jay Sweeney, and all the other department heads were the young Turks who were hardworking, smart, dedicated, full of integrity individuals who have been working hard for the city. And I hope the citizens of Sitka understand that and appreciate how there's so many good working people out there. I'd like to thank former administrator Mark Gorman. He's the one that maybe I should thank him and kick him at the same time, because he's the one that encouraged me greatly to apply for the job. It had opened up many times over my career, and I never thought I'd want to be a municipal attorney. It just seemed to be too political, but Mark Gorman talked me into it, and that was a good thing. I want to thank the staff at the administration who I work closely with. Especially give a special shout out to my bud at the offices, Sarah Peterson, who we laughed and cried together for almost 8 years. And thanks for your laughter, Sarah. You're the best. I want to thank John Leach for his professional support and good working conditions, and for his hard work, integrity, intellectual humility, and his ability to get stuff done for this community. You guys don't know how lucky you are. I've been in the back rooms and in the trenches in City Hall, and John has done a really good job for us, and we should all be appreciative of it. So, for me, it's been the people, and that's made the job, but it's time to move on, and I'm going to go into private practice, so give me a call. Thank you.
So it's hard to come back from that one. Brian is a treasure. Very much so. We'll move on to special reports. Are there any government to government? Municipal boards, commissions, committees? municipal departments, school district, students and guests. Sarah, do you know of any? Okay, thank you. Okay, we're now to persons to be heard. It's public participation on any item off the agenda. All public testimony is not to exceed 3 minutes for any individual.
Good evening, Matt Donahoe for ATA, and I'm just here to thank the Assembly for their support at a really critical time in the recent lawsuit with WFC. You know, going into that, my little organization, it just seemed so overwhelming that a handful of us poor fishermen and trawlers are described as versus trawlers, as trawlers are poor fishermen who catch fish for rich people, and trawlers are rich fishermen who catch fish for poor people. Well, a group of us poor trawlers found out that this incredibly well-funded organization down south was suing to close our fishery down over fish that don't come up here, to protect killer whales that don't come up here. It seemed absurd. But it wasn't. You know, it nearly killed the fishery. And the city of Sitka stepped up at a really critical time, early fundraising for this lawsuit, and we really appreciate the farsightedness of this panel to support the small boat fishery here in Southeast. I particularly want to thank Tor Christensen and Kevin Mosier, who sponsored the I don't know what we call it, special allocation to the lawsuit, and Tor, who gave me advice early on when the year before when we only asked for $5,000. He said, lawsuits are expensive, you'll be back. And we were. And other communities throughout Southeast Alaska followed. As JJ recommended, you know, she wanted to see it. I've never seen such an outpouring. The Elks had a fundraising dinner, and we raised $23,000 in one dinner. And we needed the money. I don't know what the final bill was. It was pushing $300,000. Court is not cheap. But the outcome was correct. We prevailed, as you guys heard. This is the first time I've been back in town in like 5 or 6 weeks. I would have been here earlier. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking care of your community and the region. Thank you. That's all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt.
Nice lecture.
Hello, for the record, my name is Lauren Wild. On August 19th, the Early Childhood Coalition helped facilitate a meeting with Chris Brown, a healthcare, childcare, and Veterans Affairs aide for Senator Dan Sullivan. The meeting was held at UAS Sitka campus, and 32 community members associated with or affiliated with the childcare industry were in attendance to provide Mr. Brown with feedback and thoughts on the childcare crisis, both in Sitka and statewide, and to provide suggestions on how the senator's office could help at the federal level. We're grateful for the attendance of Assembly members Mosier and Carlson, as well as the Health Needs and Human Services Commissioners Annette Evans and Michelle Kavouras. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. We also had attendance from Amy Ainsley from city staff, and wanted to acknowledge our appreciation for Melissa Wildman's continued attendance with our group. From the school board, Tom Williams was in attendance as well. Among other attendees, we had representatives from 4 child care and preschool facilities, people from the U.S. Coast Guard, Sitka Tribe of Alaska, Sitka Chamber of Commerce, Sitka Counseling, and many other concerned parents who can't find care or have struggled. And apologies if I'm omitting somebody. The meeting was well over an hour and a half. There were a lot of great thoughts and suggestions brought up. Some of the main talking points were suggestions about federal block grants and how those could be better used to meet more specific needs, how they could be maybe better facilitated from the feds through the state Department of Health and into rural communities such as Sitka, so funding doesn't get stuck in more urban parts of Alaska. Sitka has had incredible support from the childcare sector from the Sitka Tribe of Alaska. So finding ways to get federal block grants through them would also be useful to our community. Another common theme was that childcare workers and teachers are not paid well, nor do they have benefited positions. So finding ways to increase wages across the industry and finding benefits packages that could be, or creative ways benefits packages could be offered through something like Medicaid pooling or bringing 0 to 5 education workers into the fold of school districts was brought up. And then a final common theme that came up was having the senator's office look into ways to encourage the state to look at the regulations in the childcare sector in Alaska, which leave much to be desired and are overly complex and preventative. So kind of figuring out better ways to rewrite those using input from childcare industry professionals and tribes. So thank you for your time. And again, thank you to the assembly members, the HNSGS commissioners, and city employees that came to the meeting.
Thank you. Anyone else for persons to be heard? Seeing none, come back to the assembly. That brings us to the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda consisting of A, approve the minutes of the August 8th and other 13th assembly meetings. B, approve a new retail marijuana store license application for Island Girl Cannabis. And C, approve the following liquor license documents: a renewal application for Talon Charters doing business as Talon Lodge on Apple Island, and 2, a renewal application for Harbor Mountain Brewing Company LLC at 1209 Summel Creek Road.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment? This item? Seeing none. That goes to a vote. Sarah?
Yep. On the motion to approve the consent agenda, Mr. Christensen,
Yeah, yes.
Mr. Yestad,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mr. Celine,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
and Mr. Pike.
Yes.
The motion passes 6-0 on the consent agenda.
Okay. That moves us to board, commissions, and committee appointments. Item D.
I move to reappoint James Polson to a 3-year term on the Historic Preservation Commission.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this one? Seeing none. Any discussion? Nope.
That's a harder one than you think, and so I appreciate it, James.
I agree. Sarah?
All right, on the motion to reappoint Mr. Paulson to a 3-year term on the Historic Preservation Commission, Mr. Celine,
Yes.
Mr. Yestad,
Yes.
Mr. Christensen,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Pike,
Yes.
and Mr. Mosher.
Yes.
The motion passes 6-0 on item D.
Okay, that brings us to unfinished business. Item E.
I move.
Go ahead.
Okay. I move to approve ordinance 2024-21 on second and final reading, amending Title II Administration and Personnel of the Sitka General Code by adding Chapter 2.32 Tourism Commission.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this agenda item?
For the record, my name is Holly Meyer. I'm the general manager at the Aspen Suites Hotel here in Sitka. On the item, I would encourage the assembly to look at a broad range of persons for this commission, and that includes industry personnel. You're talking about a commission overseeing funding that comes directly from the industry, whether that be cruise or independent traveler. And I really feel like this commission should have representation from both sectors of cruise and independent travel related fields.
Thank you. Anyone else for persons to be heard? Okay, seeing none. Back to the assembly for discussion.
I'm sure JJ's got a really take a run at, be much more thorough, but a couple of quick points when we worked on this. So, and I'll answer, so we gave real thought to whether or not to have specific seats for specific industries. And the decision was made to go for at-large just for flexibility and balance. I am sure that the industries are going to be very, various tourism industries are going to be well represented. But also, as we found that as commissions mature, it can get interesting to fill the seats. Ask Sarah. And so, if we tried to say this group is this type of tourism, this group is this type of tourism, this group is, it gets really hard to fill the seats. Whereas I think if we have a good candidate will be representative of Sitka and not, I don't think, I'm sure that we could have people who work in the tourism industry who will represent the folks who are not, and vice versa. But I think it's important to have that flexibility. I think assemblies, I've been on a number of assemblies over the years, and we are extremely cognizant of that, and every assembly will be. So I like, we're trying something a little bit different here, saying everybody's at large for something like this. And if it becomes an issue, and it's not particularly hard to change, takes 2 meetings. But I think this is going to make things a little more efficient or run a little smoother this way. So, JJ, I know you've got more about this.
Yeah, I guess kind of backing that up with the seats, the previous tourism commission did run into that problem. They were specific seats to start with, and then as the commission was going through the years, ended up getting more and more lax with what the specific seats and basically becoming at large. I think it is going to be up to this body to ensure that it is a well-rounded and well-represented commission. When we were looking at this, I kept coming back to my fishing industry and thinking of the NIMS Council, and that it should be the job of all bigger government to make sure that all these councils and commissions are well-rounded and well-represented by all stakeholders. So I think that's going to be our job, and then future assembly's job is to make sure that it has good representation from industry and general public. So in general, I was okay with having to go at this at large seating, I guess. So in general, I think this is, something we need. Task force came to that conclusion immediately, and I was also on the same page. So I'm happy to bring this forward and move it on.
Yes, and there was some graph paper involved in my analysis of existing boards, commissions, committees. And first off, thanks to the work of the clerk's office for keeping this all straight, because of the 16 that the city has, there are some similarities and differences in the survey that I've conducted, but also some kind of uniquenesses that set some apart from others. And what I did learn in kind of the overall view here is that there are a few of our boards and commissions that have specified seats, but it's usually coming from someone else's requirements. Like, for instance, emergency planning, that's the state kind of outlining those categories 1 through 7. And, the building appeals and our employee relations board. So it's not typical to, our standard boards and commissions to have specified seats. So we're just continuing in that fashion here with the Tourism Commission.
I read this with great interest because I agree. I mean, this is a commission whose time has come back again, I think, from everything we've heard from the task force and the public, and it's time to put a group that we can turn to help manage tourism and in all sorts of forms and fashions. And I think it's time for this group. I was a little surprised not to see a little more of a, I guess I was hoping for or looking for a little more information in terms for future assemblies as much as us, as to like what we expect. Like, is there a, I mean, there was a reference to bringing out experts in, but we didn't put anything in place to say, we're expecting industry participation, we're expecting, people from whatever. I mean, I guess while I agree that, locking seats down makes them difficult to fill, and as it matures, it's going to be a problem. But, some speaking toward what it is we're looking for in terms of balance would, I think, go a long way to helping lay out for everybody what it is we're expecting this group to do. Because, I mean, it is the big question in front of our community for now and for the near future, and probably into the distant future. This group's going to be busy and be expected to do these things. And what kind of balance are we, who are putting this together, expecting this commission to give going forward? And I think that's a piece that I think is not in the current language that has been put in place. I think the commission is good. And, I think we are currently in this. I think we will put together a balanced commission. But what is that, down the road when we're looking at it differently? What is the historical expectation that this group is going to be representing? How are they going to move forward, I think? And that's the piece that's missing.
I think I can answer that, actually. To a large extent, it's up to the commission. And I think giving future assembly, I think we need to give future assemblies the credit to say, to know that when people apply to be on the commission, if they would be an asset or not. And especially at the beginning, there's going to be some organizational growing pains or things. And so, like all of our commissions, if they are engaged and working on things, they're going to tell us what they need. So I don't feel like we need to say, we expect to have people from these different industries, because we all know that. And as it works, the assembly and the public are going to see if there's an imbalance, and that's exactly why we have it set up this way, to be a little more flexible. So.
I'll make it real brief. Thank you for all your comments. I have thought about this a lot over the past 2 weeks, and I'm kind of more in the mind of what Tim said. I'm going to vote yes for it, and I think it's born out of necessity in a certain way to have basically at-large seats. But we'll have to keep an eye on it, and if things we just have to pay attention, because we may have to change it in the future. Talking about the seating. But I think this is a great ordinance. I appreciate sponsors for bringing this forward, and all the staff that has helped as well. We can't do anything without the staff, basically. They really help us. But the community desires it and needs it, and I think it is going to be a huge asset. And the work that they will do with the tourism manager will be essential. So that's all I have.
Just so staff can meet expectations of the assembly, if this ordinance is approved and we advertise, when would the assembly like these applications to come back before the body for appointment?
I personally would like to give a wider berth of time, because people are just going to hear about this again, and give people time to think and consider. But I'd be amenable to what the assembly members think. I'm thinking a month, but.
Yeah. If I had a wish, it would be that we not do this until at least the first meeting in October.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good.
Sounds great.
Okay. You can do the roll call.
Oh, yes.
Your wish is our command.
Yeah. Now we must vote. All right, so on the motion to approve ordinance 2024-21 on second and final reading, Mr. Christensen,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Celine,
Yes.
Mr. Pike,
Yes.
Mr. Yestad,
Yes.
and Mr. Mosier.
Yes.
The motion passes 6-0 on item E.
All right. History has been made. That brings us to new business, item F. This is a discussion, direction, decision on proceeding with the vacation of Neva Street. Amy, I believe you're going to introduce this.
Thank you. Assembly members, Amy Ainsley, Planning and Community Development Director. So the city has received an application to vacate Neva Street, which is an undeveloped right-of-way that's between Edgecombe Drive and Davidoff Street. So it's about 340 feet long, it's 60 feet wide. Right now, it has a private driveway in it, but otherwise is largely undeveloped. We have done a review of the street internally in the city, and staff has come to the determination that it is not suitable for water or wastewater utilities, nor is it really suitable to develop as a city street. It could, however, be used for driveways. It could potentially be developable property. And we did also identify that there is the potential that it could be used as a corridor for electric or telecommunications infrastructure in the future. And so in working with the applicant on this case, what we've kind of landed on is reserving a 20-foot wide easement in the middle of the area so that if there is the need for, a utility corridor for electric or telecommunications in the future, that remains there, but we could open up the rest of that property potentially for development. We also have confirmed with emergency services that there is still adequate turning space in the remainder of Davidoff Street post-vacation. So all of the property owners that are adjacent to the property have indicated that they are supportive of this request and would like to see it move forward. It was also unanimously recommended for approval by the Planning Commission earlier this month. So for the process for a street vacation, the assembly has to determine kind of two things for us tonight. The first is whether or not we'd like to proceed with the vacation, and then secondly, what the basis for the payment would be. So just in terms of overall process, we're getting this direction from you tonight so that we know how much more to move forward on this. The applicant will then create a survey of the area that shows the street being vacated and all of that land attaching to the neighboring properties. So new monuments and property corners will be set in a replat that will go before the Planning Commission as well. We'll bring a sales ordinance back to the assembly for 2 readings. And then we'll draft quitclaim deeds that will be drafted and recorded at the same time as the new plat. On the price, given the nature of this street vacation, it's really entirely the assembly's discretion as to what the sale price could be. Other types of vacations might require that we do fair market value. That's not the case here. So really the door is kind of open in terms of the different options that you might want to pursue. In the memo that we sent with this item, the assessor did provide some analysis for you to look at and kind of broke that down a little bit. And so we could use any of these values that are here established. We could request additional analysis or information from the assessor and bring that back. We could request a fair market appraisal be completed, or if there's another sale price sort of in the minds of the assembly, we could move forward with that as well. So again, the staff recommendation is to move forward with the request. That was also the recommendation of the Planning Commission. So looking for direction from the assembly on the overall question of vacation and setting that sale price.
Question for Amy real quick.
Mhm.
So this one's not new to me. The increase in assessed value, I'm assuming that all of the adjacent property owners have seen that?
Correct.
And have they expressed dismay or anything about that?
No, so the first table there that shows the increase in the assessed value for each lot, that was provided to all of the property owners. And again, all of those property owners indicated that they're supportive of the request and are willing to contribute financially to that. We did express to them that, hey, this is just one slice of what the price could be. It still has to be determined by the assembly. So we tried to make very clear that this, the numbers we gave them were not final, but the feedback that I received was that it was, there wasn't any issue just expressed, so.
Does anyone else have any questions for Amy?
So of the 4 listed neighboring properties, one of them has an address on Neva Street. So if we're vacating Neva Street, what happens to that
We'll
address?
readdress it. Yeah.
And I believe if I recall, Neva Street continues on the other side of Edgecombe Drive. Would this continue onto other aspects of Neva Street, or is this solely for the one half?
This is solely for this portion. We have not received an application or petition to vacate the other section of Neva Street. So it's just for this section that's between Edgecombe Drive and Davidoff Street.
Okay. Great. Thank you. That's
Okay. No one else? Bring it back to the table you can just stay there because we might have questions. So
Do we have any public comment?
we haven't made a motion. Do you have that unless?
Well, all right, before we make a motion, then I've been to a few of the meetings when this has come up. And I know that the people who are asking for this have been very patient. But it's been a long process for them and they are really wanting to get it going. I mean, we all understand the speed that the government works at is not the same that we'd like, some of us would like. Anyway, so I would suggest that we just do the increase in assessed value. Unlike if I was selling this my own personal, we get to see that increase in assessed value every year because we're going to get more property tax. So if the total of 28,520 is not all we're going to get. We're going to get every year, we're going to get 6 mils of that. So I would recommend that we push this forward and just use the increase in assessed value as the sale price.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments?
I think that what Tor said is a good base. Is the city paying for the survey and the replacing of the property corners and all of that?
No, that's the applicant.
Okay. So if there were to have been any additional expenses, I think the increase in excess value plus whatever we expend on it. But if it doesn't sound like there are any, then I'm happy with the increase in assessed value.
Yeah, I ditto what's been said already. Anyone else?
I think in general, I'm definitely in support of this. I liked seeing that the utility easement for potential power telecommunications is still there. I kept going back and forth on the price and had reasons I thought it should be more and reasons I thought it was absolutely fine. So I'm good with whatever the body wants. So if what is presented is what is wanted, I'm good with it.
Okay, so it looks like if there's no other comment, we'll need a motion.
I move to direct staff to.
Hold
Oh,
on
sorry.
1 second. Sarah, did you have a comment?
You don't need to make a motion, but if you want to make
Oh.
a motion, you
Oh,
We don't need to?
we don't have to make a motion?
what?
Okay,
Yeah, no, you don't need to, but if you
Okay.
want.
okay, never mind.
If we don't need to, then we won't. Is there anyone that disagrees with the comments so far? No, okay, I think you got your answer. Thank you for your hard work. That was fast. Okay, we're up to item G. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve an update increase in the annual lease cost to the successive land lease between the city and Borough of Sitka and the State of Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities for the Sitka Airport and authorize the municipal administrator to execute the document.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Before we go to public comment, Ron Vincent is going to introduce this.
Good evening. My name is Ron Vincent. I'm the Public Works Director for the City and Borough of Sitka. This is Joseph Bea. He's our airport manager for the city as well. As you may recall, in early spring of this year, the Assembly granted authorization for the municipal administrator to enter into a lease agreement with the state of Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities for the Rocky Gutierrez International Airport. In June, the state DOT reached out to inform the CBS that they would need to amend the approved lease agreement to accommodate the implementation of a new federal regulation. It's FRN 2023-27017. This new regulation requires the delineation of spaces within the airport terminal that are used for aeronautical purposes versus the spaces that are used for non-aeronautical purposes. Additionally, the new regulation mandates that airport properties managed in a manner that aligns, the airport properties be managed in a manner that aligns with market rate for property use. So, for example, any kind of gift shop or restaurant would be managed in a market rate that's different from a market rate for an aeronautical service that's provided at the airport. The intent of this, from the FAA's standpoint, is to promote aeronautical use of airports and not to let them get overrun or misused by other services that are provided in those facilities. So in alignment with the terms of the new federal regulation, the Alaska Department of Transportation has modified the terms of the primary lease that we were previously granted authority to enter into. This modification includes a change in the non-aeronautical and aeronautical lease rates. We're at about a 22 cent per square foot rate for our aeronautical leases, and our non-aeronauticals will be about 38 cents per square foot. So this will ultimately end up with an increase of about $636 annually to the overall rent due to the state of Alaska. So tonight's request ultimately summarizes in a request to authorize the municipal administrator to move forward in entering into this lease agreement with this increased amount.
Okay. Thank you, Ron. If you want to have a seat, we'll call you back up after a public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if anyone has any public comment on this issue, please come on up. Not seeing any. Okay. Back to the assembly for deliberation. John, did you have something?
I just wanted to kind of further explain what Ron brought up on this aeronautical versus non-aeronautical, and kind of give you some background on the work that I've done with the state to try to get this figured out. You know, my view on this is we lease a chunk of land from the state on which our airport building will sit. The city and borough of Sitka is the owner of the airport building. When this was presented to us as now we're gonna change the lease rates on aeronautical versus non-aeronautical, my pushback was the building's ours. We designate what's aeronautical and non-aeronautical. The land is the land. We lease the land. And we have a requirement already from the FAA that if we have an aeronautical space, we charge them a different rate than the non-aeronautical. So I had some concerns that we're kind of, for lack of a better term, double dipping. You know, the city's being charged a differing lease rate based on a building that is not owned by the state. And I'd gotten an answer from the state, and they said this FAA FRN that came out in late December got some clarification, said nope, this is the way we have to do it. So basically, they took the building and smashed it into a two-dimensional diagram and stuck it over the lease lot and said this is the square footage of the areas that you'll be using for non-aeronautical purposes. And the first answer was, we're going to charge you that rate, but you guys have the freedom in your own building to charge whatever sublease rates you need to. It's your airport. I thought that was great news, but that ended up not being the case. FAA came back with more clarification and said, no, you do have to charge the non-aeronautical for the land, or, aeronautical, non-aeronautical for the land, and also for the activities inside the building. So we will still be under those same requirements to have differing lease rates within the building. So a lot of work back and forth over the past 6 months. I know the Assembly had already authorized me to sign that. And the reason it hadn't been signed yet is there were a lot of the AC DBE requirements and DBE requirements. After, we had a visit from the FAA, Office of Civil Rights, got some training from them, talked to the program. We had to develop that program. But there's standard language that was inserted there. And along with that language, that new federal requirement came out for the lease rates. So I hope that's the shortest version I can give you on an explanation of how we got to where we are right now.
No, thank you. That helps with the history. Kind of paints a picture. We don't really have a choice. It's not a substantial, we could say no, but I don't think that'd be very wise. $600 is still $600, but over a year, but it's not unreasonable. But go ahead.
Question for you, John. So we knew some of the extra red text about the DBE stuff was going to be coming. Did we know that this change or this delineation between aeronautical and non-aeronautical lease fees, do we know that was coming?
At the time it was presented to the Assembly, no, we did not know that. That Federal Register came out, actually January 8th is when that information came out, and the Assembly had already considered the lease by then, and it was a new requirement.
So, yeah, so we didn't sign it at that time because we were waiting for this extra language to come. Some additional fees came in along with some extra language. Okay, so this isn't a case of us entering into the lease, signing it, and then after the fact, the rates have increased. We haven't signed anything yet, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, they slipped that one in there, didn't they? Where did these rates come from? Are these based off of other rates in Alaska or something from federal, or who's decided on these units?
Essentially, it's fair market value. That's also I guess we could go get our own independent assessment from our own assessor to see if the numbers match. But under that requirement, they have to charge fair market value for it. Non-aeronautical, there's some more flexibility for the aeronautical lease rates.
And at this point, we're building a new airport. We need a lease. Is that really going to bring any benefit for us to investigate this further? Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it, John.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we have zero wiggle room on this. There's a lot of things about this lease that I don't like. We talked about this spring a lot. But they don't care what we want, the state and the feds. So if we want an airport, we've got to do this. And so I could stomp my feet and cry about it, but it's not going to make any difference. So we got to do it.
Yeah, well said. No one else? Then let's go to a vote.
All right, on the motion to approve the update to the land lease between the city and the state for the Sitka Airport, Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Christensen,
Yes.
Mr. Yestad,
Yes.
Mr. Pike,
Yes.
Mr. Celine.
Yes.
And Mr. Mosher.
Yes,
The motion passes 6-0 on item G.
it's 10-7. This last item, I'm guessing might take a little while. Let's take a 10-minute break. Okay. Okay, we're back in business. This is item H, a discussion direction decision on the upcoming September 19th work session regarding a Convention and Visitors Bureau Services contract. I would like to say something first, JJ. We've gotten a couple emails and stuff. I just want to clarify that this is not about our current contractor not doing their job in any way. I think they have integrity and doing their job well or doing what we asked them to do. From my perspective, what we're doing now we would have had to do a year, an extra year from now because of the extensions. We're just choosing to not avail ourselves possibly of the last extension. And the reason for that for me is, we just got this tourism manager approved and we're advertising. I hope we have someone soon. We have the Tourism Commission set up. So in my mind, every year we've kind of hummed and hawed about the scheduling of the payments and how confusing it is, but we never actually do anything about it. So in my mind, this is going to align some things like the calendar. It's all in the memo, but to align things with the calendar year, as well as to update this contract with the change of the situation. 5 years ago, the tourism situation was different. So it's just to try to get all that set up and in place so that when a tourism manager is hired, that person will be able to have that fresh mission right in front of them so they can kind of go forward. And this will, the earlier situation as well is that, we'll have this tourism manager to liaise with, and they'll be doing a lot of the outreach for working with the contract holder. So I just wanted to say that. I'm grateful for our current contract holder. And but that's it. JJ, do you want to introduce anything?
Happy to follow up on that. Yes. So Kevin, me and the mayor are talking about this DDD item tonight to prepare for the work session we have scheduled in 3.5 weeks. That work session was scheduled based off of a previous DDD this assembly did in January, that the outcome was to schedule a work session. The timing didn't quite work out to scheduling it until now. From kind of January, that's the start of kind of budget season. April, we're doing a lot of extra meetings, trying to get a municipal attorney. That brought us to May. That's when the Tourism Task Force recommendations were coming out. So we should probably wait to hear what they say so we can align some things. And that brought us through, July, August, the, funding of that tourism manager position and the starting of this commission now. So there really wasn't a good time before scheduling it for September to have that work session. So a bit of a stretch in the last 8 months has caused a bit of a compression in the next couple months here, because our goal, from what this body has said in the past, is to align with the fiscal year schedules, and that would be for start in July 2025 for that fiscal year 2026. And to do that, we're, as outlined in the packet, and I'll say it verbally here in a sec, that the RFP process may feel a little fast. So the goals for this discussion tonight is to confirm that we do, as an assembly, want to go out to RFP kind of now, and not do that next extension year, and use these opportunity to align and really create a good foundation for our municipal strategy on tourism management, to have contracted services, as well as the commission, as well as the tourism manager, all organized together kind of at once to bring us to that next place of kind of unified management. And if we do want to go out for RFP to achieve this kind of holistic goal, can we commit to the schedule? And in order to kind of get things going at this faster clip, to look through some bullet points and formulate a nice framework for staff to go and work on a rough draft so that we can have a nice starting place for our work session in 3.5 weeks. So that's the overall thought. The RFP frame for those listening or in the audience without these pages in front of them, it would be a work session middle of next month to then prepare for RFP opening middle of October. It would be open for 2 months. Middle of December be the closing of the RFP. Then the month of January could be selection, and the fall be used for negotiation. The assembly would review and approve come middle of April, and then we would hit the budget cycle approvals, just like other contract services through other municipal departments. So we do have the opportunity with this timeline to not need to do evening work sessions as we do currently with the contractor, and it would hopefully align with some nice feedback that I've heard from the group. That timeline has been created in conjunction with John and his staff, some department heads, finance and planning and community development have seen, and they've drafted this timeline. And if we can confirm tonight that we do want to go to RFP and that timeline's okay, then perhaps that third goal of this evening is to review from some bullet points to get going on what that next RFP could be. In the packet, there's 5 pages. That shouldn't be too scary sounding because 4 of those pages is just a reformat of the existing scope of services, formatted just to kind of make it simpler to understand and see what the current scope is. And then that 5th page is broken up into 3 sections, with primary considerations and then some secondary. And if we are interested in applying some kind of tourism management aspects to this next potential contract, what would that look like? Could it be a crossing guard program or street closures, or are we still wanting this exact contract to be marketing and visitor services? So those are some potential thoughts for us to discuss now.
Thank you, JJ. And I'm just going to clarify with one thing before we go to discussion is the items in the possible RFP are very fluid and basically penciled in.
Absolutely.
There's a couple ones on there that I have questions about too. So if we get that far, let's kind of, that will be the time to talk about what you're interested in, what you're not. And finally, to make this just logistically flow better, let's start with the first one. We can go one by one. Commitment to the new RFP. What are people's thoughts about actually doing this in the first place?
So I think it's important to realize that this is not just 5 years. This has been renewed. Well, I mean, I don't remember the exact date, but it's been a number of times. We just basically been rolling it over. And so I think we are frankly past due to be doing this. We've been, and I think a large reason for that is the timing, is the not on the same fiscal year as us. And that has to change. That is just extremely awkward, and it makes it impossible to make changes in a reasonable manner. And everything the city does is built around our fiscal year, except this. So we've got to realign that. That's, to me, that if there was nothing else, we would need to do this put it out because of that. And so I think that, and then we've talked earlier that the situation has completely changed since we first started on this process with the Sitka.
Sorry.
Was that John was saying?
No, he was just
Oh.
putting his hand up. I was just letting. him know.
So, I think it is definitely time to do this. And, you know, we're gonna be in the same time crunch next year if we don't do it now. And so, you know, there's a lot of other reasons, but mainly situation has changed a lot between what the city has and what the tourism is, and we've got to fix that difference between the calendar year and the fiscal year.
Thank you, Tor. John, you seem to have something to say.
Yeah, I would just want to jump in on the calendar year and fiscal year issue. We have many contracts. I'm going to look over at Melissa. We have contracts that span a calendar year. I mean, obviously fiscal year is ideal. I would just clarify that the thing that about this contract that's challenging is that the base funding and the supplemental funding are on two different cycles. So the base funding's on a calendar year, the supplemental funding's on a fiscal year. And then when we do the supplemental funding and then execute an option, it's like both actions are taking place at the same time and then starting to span across two fiscal years. Did I get it right, Melissa?
Thank you. Thank you, John. Is anyone, so Tor is in favor. I'm in favor of moving to an RFP. Does anyone else have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a conversation we've been having now for a little while about updating this contract. I mean, and I agree with Kevin. I mean, this isn't about someone not executing the contract that's in front of them and that we put out. It's the fact that contract is essentially not meeting the needs of the community anymore, and it's time to update that. So, you know, this isn't about getting rid of anything. This is about making sure that what we're providing to the visitors in all forms meets the desires of this assembly and this community. And so I'm in favor of looking at this contract because it's not meeting the needs that we have. I mean, we've had conversations about using CPV funds. Well, the way it's currently structured, we're going to struggle to figure out how to do that. So, you know, this is one of those times where we have that opportunity. And I agree. I mean, I think originally the idea was probably to make it easy for us to deal with it outside of the season, the assembly. But I mean, it's not a workable framework. So getting it back on cycle makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that, you know, the contractor will bid on this one, you know, as soon as we come up with what it looks like, because I think that's going to be very important to do that. Because as Tor said, it's time to update it for what's actually happening. We built a contract for something we were desiring. We got more than what we were expecting. And now it's time to make sure that the contract fits with what's actually going on.
Thank you, Tim.
Concur.
Okay, Scotty's on board. Chris?
Yeah, no, I definitely want to get the timing of everything synced up. You know, that seems to be a constant issue, it seems like. Yeah, we have some big changes coming, you know, with the tourism manager and tourism commission coming online. I'm not really sure how much that might change the contract. But I think it's time to reexamine and yeah, kind of go over everything and start from square one. And yeah, I guess this is the time. So yeah, I'm in favor.
Thank you, Chris. So that's item number 1. Item number 2, commitment to timeline. Any thoughts? As presented in the packet. Tor, did you have something?
I'll have to zoom in on the 19th, but that's fine. We picked the 1 month that I've actually got out of town a bit. If anybody cares, I could do it a different date, but honestly, I can zoom in on that.
JJ?
I'm thinking this is great for a new time for the RFP and with the timeline proposed. Steve.
Well, I have a question for John and probably Melissa. Is 2 months a normal RFP timeframe, or is that a little tight?
I think that's actually a generous amount of time. Usually we shoot for no less than 30 days. So I think that's 60 days seems to be a reasonable timeline.
Okay, then timeline works for me.
Thank you. And yeah, Tor, to clarify, this isn't just about the work session or whatever. It's about the whole timeline. Are you cool with that?
I'm well aware, but
Okay.
that's the one that jumped out at me because I'm not going to be in town. The rest of the time, I'm fine with.
Okay, thank you. So, Scotty?
Good.
He's good. Chris?
Yeah, I'm good with it. I may have to Zoom on the 19th, but,
Okay.
yeah, the fishing schedule, who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah. Thank you for being available. So that takes care of item number 2. The last item in this discussion direction is preliminary list of services. This is where I'm really hoping if people have anything that they, like about it or don't like about it, that would be helpful to, because it would help staff with as they start moving things forward. I'm just going to start, if that's okay.
Can I give another like mini introduction?
Yeah, absolutely.
So in these 4 pages of the existing contract scope of services, what is gray and in italics? That is words I have added. So there's a few, I'd just say minor updates to get it to be a little closer to what I'm seeing as the current contractors kind of operations, with some little updates to the, let's call them like the headers. In the current language, like for instance, that 3-year strategic marketing plan was part of the marketing group. I've pulled it out and put it under its own header of planning. I just felt like it fit there better, and pulled out some items from what was visitor services and made a new category called partner services. It just seemed to line up better with who was being served in those areas. So if you see something in gray, those are my words added to just help be more direct and be more clear about what the words in black say, which are directly pulled from the existing scope of services. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, JJ. I'm just looking here. So yeah, under the new one, primary considerations for inclusion and new RFP for Convention and Visitor Bureau Services. I think I'm good with this. One thing, payments to be made upon receipt of itemized invoices. I know we talked about this, JJ. Something I was thinking though, I don't want this put out there, people thinking they have to have a whole, in-depth thesis on it, At my work, when I work, we approve subcontractor invoices. It's just kind of a basic couple things that they're working on. But we can discuss that detail when we have this work session. Secondary considerations, public restroom facilities in the visitor center. I'm okay with that, but I don't want that to be a make or break thing. And same thing with the crossing guard program. I think that's under tourism management, additional consideration. I think that's going to be hard to staff, but then again, I'll be open to assembly consideration. Those are my main ones. I'm sure I'll think of another one, but if anyone else has any comments, John?
I just wanted to make a comment on the itemized monthly invoices. That's important to us if we're going to be talking about different pots of funding, especially with CPV coming into the picture, because again, I'm going to look over to Melissa for the head nod here, but CPV is a law, and we have to make sure that these are allowable expenses within that law. So that itemized invoice helps us determine when those payments have to be made, which pot of money is this coming from. So you're correct. We don't need a novel written for us, but anything that outlines what the expense was and then the proof that expense went to that function makes us feel a lot more comfortable in our risk position on use of CPV.
No, thank you for bringing that up, actually. So it might need a little more detail than just a couple of sentences, but, and that's something we haven't really talked about yet, is that we're wanting to pay for some of this with CPV funding. So of course, if we're going to do that, we need to be able to prove that. Any comments? Tor?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking, this is a pretty good list. I mean, I think there's been a feeling among the assembly to have a better right, to have tighter control. I mean, to be really blunt about it. We've gotten really spoiled with Melissa, where we get these beautiful budgets, reports that just, if we want to dig into them, we get down to the penny on how everything's going to be spent. And we don't really have that. I'm not saying that's wrong, but it's just, we don't have that right now. And I think we should. And there's some other things like, we just, it just needs to be cleaned up. I mean, things like Visit Sitka gets money from other sources. And so where's that money coming from? Where's it being spent? Where's our money being spent? We don't know, or it's not easy to suss out, at least. And so I like that, that it's in there for that. I mean, and also to, when we meet, kind of refocus what we want. I mean, I know that when we first, from way back for the old Convention and Business Bureau, which is the predecessor of Visit Sitka, we're always saying we want to focus on conventions and other meetings and things. And right now, and we need to, I think we need to kind of renew that focus, because that's nice money coming into town, oftentimes not during the normal tourism year. And I think that the oxygen has been sucked up by the cruise ship industry. Understandably, it's new and we're trying to get it figured out, but I think we need to kind of renew our focus on that. So if I had to boil it down to things like that, is making sure that as much that money is being spent in Sitka by the tourists and to maximize that. And so that's why I love, the independent travelers and conventions and things, because they're a captive audience. And of course I know that their independent travelers have their own issues with people in Sitka. There's no question. Everything that has a price, whether it's monetary or irritating. But I like this. This is going to be a nice exercise. This is a good list, and I'm sure we'll be coming up with a few other things in a couple of weeks, to not just for Visit Sitka and or whoever puts a name forward, but for us to say, this is what we want from this. And we haven't done that. And when did we say, it was like 12 years ago, right? The initial Visit Sitka contract? Something like
The
that.
one we have is 2018, but I think there were a few years
It was
before that.
10, 15 was when
And
we
then
went away from
Yeah, all
it
right.
being.
So we're looking 9 years, and we're kind of overdue for needing to sit down and say, okay, what do we really want from this? So this isn't just for whoever's going to be our point person on convention and visitors. It's for us to say, what do we want from that? And so I think it'll be good to have that meeting. This is a good list. I like the idea of metrics and data tracking, and really getting an idea of what we're getting, because at the end of the day, when I get stopped at the grocery store and somebody says, what are they doing? I want to have an answer. And right now it's kind of hard to give, and I'm not blaming anybody, because it's work to produce that. But again, with the tourism manager and a commission, I think we're going to have a much better idea of what's going on. And like I said, whether we do this now or now, we will be doing this next year anyway. So it's better to get it done. So thank you.
Anyone else?
I mean, I think it's a good starting point. I think it's kind of funny because it has some like big broad categories and very visionary kind of statements. It has some very distinct like crossing guard sort of things. And so, hopefully we can find a balance point between, the super detailed and and the vague, so that we can come up with what this, to go back again to the same point. The things have changed since this was initially offered as a contract. It's time to update it to match with what it is we're doing. And like Tor says, we've been talking quite a bit about how we want to see, where we want to see it go, and how we want Sitka to develop as a tourist destination outside of what's already going on. So I'm in favor of that. Whether this list is the list that goes forward ultimately, I'm not so sure.
Thank you, Tim. I agree. This, we'll get more into the details when we meet further on this. And that'll be the entire agenda for that time. JJ?
Yeah, the goal of tonight was just to get a rough draft so we could have a really good work session in 3.5 weeks. To have, effective and efficient time management of that meeting. We could have a good framework for something to look at as what a draft of the RFP could look like. So if there's any bullet points here that we say like absolutely no, I'd be happy to pull those out now. Otherwise, filtering these together and having the page 5 bullet points show up in the other lists. I think that could be an outcome for this evening, and we would continue to think, this group continue to think over the next 3.5 weeks of other things we perhaps would want to see in this contract, but in advance of our work session.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have anything else. I think, we can get into the, have a little more time to chew on this when we meet on the 19th. Chris, did you have something?
Yeah, I guess real quick, in general, I like what's here. First reading through this, I thought the itemized monthly invoices seemed a little excessive, but then learning that it's going to be used towards CPV funding potentially, I'm definitely on board with that. If that's the avenue we got to go to be able to use those funds, I'm for it. I definitely like the metrics and data. I definitely want to see that. I think that's something we need. It's something we learned in the task force is we want to see more data. So anything to help out there. I like the change order section because, as any contractor knows, there's often change orders. So having some sort of section there with change orders that may come about because, everything seems to be a bit of a moving target. So having something like that would be handy. I was just in Ketchikan for 3 weeks. They do have crossing guards. I'm not really sure if that would work well here, but it is interesting. And I think maybe interesting enough to explore to see if it would be beneficial for us here. But yeah, in general, I think this is a good start. And yeah, excited to go on to the next steps.
Okay, I think we've heard from everybody. Scotty?
We've had crossing guards before. That was even little 4-person units to go around writing people up, putting chalk on their tires. And Ed Green did a real good job. I can't remember what the name of that movie, but it's almost like a marching band dude directing traffic and everything. You might even have a tip jar there. We might get somebody to offer to take the job.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think, Amy, did you feel like you got a real taste of what we're looking for? I think we got a pretty good bite of this, and thank you for your help with this, by the way. So we're just going to go ahead and close this one out, this agenda item. So let's move to persons to be heard. This is on any item on or off the agenda not to exceed 3 minutes.
Deputy Mayor, Assembly, Mr. Leach, and Sarah. My name's Tim Fulton, and I'm in front of you tonight as a board member of the Sitka Chamber of Commerce. And I came here to defend the Visit Sitka staff. And I want to say, Kevin and Tim, thank you for your opening there, because listening from home, whether expressed specifically or implied, it felt like this RFP, which I believe is time for you to look at it and get the marching orders for whoever's going to get this contract. But listening from home, it felt like it was being done because of Visit Sitka was not meeting their obligation to the contract, which is far from the fact. So thank you both for that and express that. And maybe a point of order, if I take off this board member hat and put on another one, do I still get 3 minutes or do I start over?
I doubt it. But,
Yeah, I'll just go for it. So I would agree with Mr. Hanson from earlier when he was getting the citation or the award or whatever, that this is a great assembly. So I'm going to put it out there just for you to think about. I am the CEO of a company called Ramper Innovations, and I'm passionately trying to bring manufacturing to Sitka. And any entrepreneurs, it's something that we do at the chamber. We're talking about how we can bring other industries in and support I'm forgetting Rachel, what is it? Emerging leaders, thank you, is addressing these kind of things. So it's something good. But the municipality of Anchorage has invested in Ramper Innovations. The Borough of Juneau has invested in Ramper Innovations. And as far as I know, there is nothing that the Sitka City and Borough has in place to support entrepreneurs that are trying to bring jobs to this community. So I'll put that out there for you to put that in your noggin to think about, because I knew that you are a get it done assembly, and I'll leave it at that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else for persons to be heard?
Thank you, Assembly. I would, as far as this,
Holly, could you state your name? for the
sorry,
record?
second time, Holly Meyer, General Manager of the Aspen Suites Hotel. As far as this discussion and work session goes, I encourage this body to reach out to industry on what industry would like to see in a new RFP, as well as what we see working well now. I hear a lot of discussion up here, and it sounds a lot of what you guys would like to see and what community members would like to see. But as far as visitor services, convention services, these are outside people. And so we need to take into consideration what the visitor would like to see. Currently, the current contract is funded in whole by the Visitor Enhancement Fund, which is our quote bed tax money. That's coming direct from our hotels and our short-term stays. So that's tax dollars that my patrons pay. And as of right now, we do use the visitor services, and we see what's going well, what could go better, what we'd like to see, what our visitors would like to see. And I would encourage this body to take that into consideration prior to this work session and reach out to industry. If the plan is to use CPV funding as some of it, reach out to the cruise visitor industry as well. You need visitor input for this to work well, as it is all services that is going to service the visitor more so than a community member. Community benefits from it greatly. I benefit from it greatly. We all benefit from this, but it needs to have that mind on it, that what would our outside visitors like to see and what would benefit them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, I'm Robert Haddle, and just to add a little laity this evening, I get out a lot. I like to meet the visitors, greet them, ask them where they're from, and I have found a fail-proof way to get them to use the crosswalks. When I encounter them, I tell them that after extensive study, we've determined the bears don't use the crosswalks, so they're safer by using the crosswalks. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good afternoon. My name is Oscar Cranford. I would like to thank the Assembly first off for making the Tourism Commission a thing. I'm sure we'll be talking about it more. But I'm actually in front of the Assembly today for an item off the agenda. Specifically, the city is currently in the process of hiring a city attorney. And I made a comment earlier this month referring to Rachel Jones's bar qualifications, and a local media group, who I will not name, released a August 9th article that basically implied that what I stated at this meeting was a lie. So I reached back out to the bar on August 16th, and as of August 20th, I received the following. Hello, Austin. Sorry for the late reply. Rachel Jones was suspended from September 10th, 2018 till July 31st, 2024, which she then remedied her suspension and became an active member in good standing. However, after sending this email to the local media group in question, no correction or retractment was made. One, this information should have been requested by the media group and the Assembly ahead of time. I should not have had to go to the bar to find this out because it was public information on their website. Two, when a retraction is made, for example, we have defamation and other clauses in state law. But what many people don't know is we actually have other laws in place when campaigns are currently active. So under Section 1556.014, campaign misconduct in the second degree, it states under paragraph A, a person commits the crime of campaign misconduct in the second degree if the person knowingly makes a communication, as the term is defined, containing false factual information relating to a candidate for an election that the person knows to be false and that would provoke a reasonable person under the circumstances to be a breach of the peace, or that a reasonable person would construe as damaging to the candidate's reputation for honesty or integrity, or to the candidate's qualification to serve if elected to office. And then it goes on to say this violation of this section is a corrupt practice. Campaign misconduct in the second degree is a Class B misdemeanor. I would like to make sure that the public, the media, and the Assembly know that, one, this information should have came out prior to me making it public at the meeting, and two, when information is requested about what is commented at these meetings, that it is accurately portrayed to the media and to the public, because there are cases where there has been action taken. That'll be all I have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else for public persons to be heard? Seeing none? All right. So that brings us to reports. The mayor is out. And so Administrator Leach, will you have a report?
Yeah, just a real quick summary of, I was in Kodiak a few weeks ago for the Alaska Municipal League. I think we call it the summer conference. I attended the municipal managers portion the first day and the AML session the next day. Got a tour of some Kodiak facilities. I saw their really nice ice rink with an indoor running track and sport court and heated facilities and nice Zamboni. Also saw the beginnings of their new fire department. You know, interesting that we would have similar challenges with getting contractors and work done, both being island facilities. But noticed some differences there between the way Kodiak is getting things done and we're working on things. We got a presentation from Dr. Kevin Berry from UAA, an economist, just kind of ran us through some numbers on the health of the economy, you know, things we hear in media versus what the numbers are actually saying. We heard about some of the states' out-migration, potential reasons for that. We heard from Senator Murkowski was there in person, and her staff was there the whole time with office hours where the communities could go speak with them. I know this has already been in the news, but they also made the official announcement that the new Coast Guard icebreaker will be going to Juneau. I'm sure everybody's read that. And then we heard from a tax specialist essentially that talked to the municipalities on tax structures and what works and what doesn't work. And started piecing together kind of what the resolutions for this next year are going to look like when we get together for the annual meeting in December. Took a lot of bullet points from all the communities, and AML will put those pieces of legislation together to be presented to that board and then given to the our delegation in the state.
Thank you, John. Do we have the attorney online, Sarah? Mr. Gotti, do you have any reports?
No reports tonight, Mr. Deputy Mayor, but I'd like to just state that I would like to commend Brian Hanson as well. He certainly is deserving of the Service Recognition Award, and he's a great lawyer, and I wish him all the best. So that's all I have, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Liaison representatives, any reports?
Yeah, I'd like to, we're having Police and Fire Commission tomorrow. JJ and I are presenting the beginning portions of an e-bike ordinance. E-bike, we're seeing where this is going to go a little bit. This is kind of the first chance for the public to see kind of where we're headed and where we're going. It's going to also go in front of Parks and Rec before it moves forward to kind of get some more information from people and gather some feedback as to what kind of things we're going to hear. So that would be a good opportunity for people to find out what's going on.
Yeah, thank you. That is definitely, that's a good job. Anyone else? I see none. You got one?
Yes. The Health Needs Human Services Commission, they've got their 3 goals. Even though they submitted their goals just last month, they are on track to give a report December, January. So we get to look forward to some findings on kind of public transportation, elder care, and child care in Sitka.
Thank you. So it looks like we're done with liaison representatives. Clerk, Sarah?
Alrighty, so upcoming meetings, we have a special meeting on Thursday, September 5th. The Assembly will be interviewing 2 municipal attorney applicants. And then the next week, September 10th, you'll have a regular meeting. September 19th is the Thursday, the work session, as we already mentioned. And then the following meeting, I believe, is September 24th. That's the second regular meeting in the month. We'll be doing the nonprofit grant awards at that first meeting in September. Holly's working hard on getting all of that information compiled, and I'm ready to forward out to you on Friday. So we'll have that headed your way soon. Our office is busy gearing up for the municipal election. I just want to remind folks that you must be a registered voter in Sitka to be eligible to vote in the municipal election. So if you have any questions about that, contact our office. You can go online to Division of Elections also and check your registration status or register to vote too. You can do that at our office as well. For the municipal election, eligible voters may choose to vote using one of these options. There's absentee voting by mail. The request form is online. It's also available at our office. You can vote absentee by fax or email. Personal rep. We're getting ready to start early voting on September 16th. We'll be running that Monday through Fridays, 8:30 to 4:30 here at Harrigan. And then on Saturday mornings, 9 to noon, on September 21st and September 28th. And then, of course, the polls are open here on Election Day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there any other reports? No, seeing none. We don't have any executive session. That moves us to adjournment. Can I get a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned.